He's alive! Ladies and gentlemen, Stipe Miocic is out of hiding. And in this video, I want to break down a recent interview that he just did with Damon Martin with MMA Fighting. This was actually a really good interview. And now I've been critical in the past a little bit because Damon Martin gets way up on the microphone and shit. And this one, there's no microphone for him to get up on. So that's great. So the audio is very good in this. And it's Stipe's in rare form. And this is vintage Stipe where you're going to be getting probably 3 to 4 word answers for a lot of, these questions that Damon's going to ask him. But Damon asked actually a lot of really good questions. So what I did is I went throughout this interview and I pulled out some different things for us to take a listen to. And I will link the full interview down below. So if you want to check out the whole thing, there you go. But in this, I really want to focus on, kind of what went on behind the scenes when it came to this Jon Jones fight. Was this the only fight that Stipe wanted, basically? And he will get into detail on that. We'll get his thoughts on, fighting Jon Jones, obviously, what he thought of Jon's performance against Ciryl Gane. Is this his final fight, right? That's kind of where everyone's like, he's retiring. We're going to hear from Stipe in this, his thoughts on Tom Aspinall being an underdog. And if he missed fighting or not, there's a lot. This is a big interview, man. That's why I have so many time codes pulled because Stipe footage or Stipe anything nowadays is rare. It's like a dinosaur walking around. When you see it, you're like, what the hell is that thing? You know what I mean? This is prehistoric Stipe right here. And all kidding aside, I absolutely love Stipe Miocic. I don't think that you can dislike Stipe at all. He's caught a lot of heat for getting this title fight against Jon Jones. But the one thing is, Stipe is always respectful. He's always classy. And I always love listening to what he has to say. Even though they're short answers, he's just a great dude and a very fun dude. Would love to meet him someday. So in the history of my channel, before we jump into this, that my channel has not been around since Stipe last fought. So this is my first time getting to cover Stipe. So in case you can't tell, I'm a little excited. But let's start off with him wanting the Jon fight. Basically, that's all that was intriguing him, it sounds like.
I just wanted to fight Jon. That's always wanted to do. And, don't get wrong, Aspinall, he's a great fighter, but I just want to fight Jon Jones.
Yeah. I think that's the narrative. Obviously, I think everyone knows Tom Aspinall's good, but there's a different aura to fighting you or fighting Jon, right? That's the difference we're looking at here. Again, Tom, great fighter, but in terms of accomplishments, you and Jon are two of the greatest ever, right?
Yeah, I just want to fight the best, and so does he, so let's have some fun.
There's Stipe in vintage form, man. I told you, these short answers. But again, the aura, I don't know about aura, right? I think Tom Aspinall's aura is maybe a little higher right now. Maybe that's just me. He's knocking everybody out. But in terms of accomplishments, we all know what this is about, right? Jon Jones, greatest fighter of all time. Stipe Miocic, greatest heavyweight of all time. That is the narrative here. But let's move ahead just a few here and get his thoughts on, Ciryl Gane, or the Jon Jones versus Ciryl Gane fight, because Stipe was there front and center for that fight. So let's hear what he thought.
Ciryl Gane.
I was right there. I was front row. He did what he was supposed to do. He got the win. I didn't see much because it didn't go that long. But he did everything he was supposed to and got the win.
Obviously, I think there's no giant secret. Ciryl Gane's not the greatest grappler in the world, so I think there was an easy path to victory. For many years, myself and a lot of other people have said you were one of the more difficult matches for Jon because you were big, you were strong, you hit hard, and you have wrestling, which has been one weapon that Jon has used a lot. Do you feel like matchup-wise, you are exactly what everyone has said for years, that you would be one of, if not the toughest matchup for Jon at heavyweight?
Yeah, I think so. I believe so. I think any fight I have, I'm the toughest matchup for them because not just me, it's my coaches. We have always come with a great game plan, and they improvise, they make everything right, and they, as long as I go to the game plan, listen, and we'll be good.
I'm trying not to laugh, man. It's just funny because Stipe says the most generic answers, and these are great questions by Damon Martin. So shout out to him, because if he wasn't answering such or asking such specific questions, I don't know what kind of answers we would be getting here from Stipe. But again, very adamant that he wants to fight Jon Jones. That is what's what's making him interested. Stipe is basically done about everything you could possibly do in the sport, right? The last time out, Stipe has not fought since the Venom fight kits have been around. That is absolutely crazy at this point, but it's kind of walking back into a title shot here where, yes, there is a lot of flack. Yes, I would love to see Jon Jones versus Aspinall, but if there's someone that's going to come back into a title shot like this, I definitely think Stipe Miocic is one of those guys. Outside of, his last time out, he got, folded kind of like a chair, basically, against Francis Ngannou, but again, we've seen how Francis has evolved and became very dangerous. But I also wanted to highlight the fact that, again, Ciryl Gane He's a very, very good striker. He does not have the grappling of Stipe Miocic. And I would even say Stipe Miocic, he's not, Ciryl Gane's a very good overall striker. He's got a lot of the kicks and stuff. Stipe has outstanding boxing. He's got very, very good hands. He does leave himself a little bit vulnerable to being countered. We saw that against Cormier, and he has struggled a little bit with these guys coming up, which was really just Cormier coming up from light heavyweights, some of the skill and speed advantage to where he could take advantage of that with some of the bigger heavyweights that are just kind of just big, powerful dudes. There's a little bit more technicality and skill. So I'm going to be very interested to see, can Stipe stuff the takedowns of Jon Jones? Because if he can't, it's going to be a problem. But if he can on the feet, I think Stipe may cause some issues for Jon. But let's move ahead here to 4:30, where he's going to talk about Francis Ngannou. Because this is, again, it's very easy for me to just make a video. It's very easy for me to come on here and be very clickbaity, critical, whatever. I want to be very fair to Stipe Miocic. This is he's one of the most respectful and honorable guys in the sport. And I wanted to give him some shine in this as well, aside from some of the other things that I know everyone's dying to know. Just get his thoughts on Francis Ngannou, right? This is just such a great answer from Stipe Miocic. So I just wanted to highlight this in here real quick.
But was there disappointment that Francis left, or?
Yeah, of course, because I wanted the match, but also the same. I understand he's made him doing better for himself and his family.
Yeah. What did you?
I'm not mad at him. He's doing great.
Yeah. I'm curious because I remember talking to you years ago about you obviously have boxing experience, Golden Globes experience. Did you watch Francis's boxing matches?
No. I saw clips of it. The first one he did well, with Fury, and then fortunately didn't go well. Second one with Joshua, but it happens. It's a fight. It's fighting, and it happened.
I mean, no one's going to fault you for taking a lot of money in those situations, but obviously stepping into the deep water of the heavyweight division on day one, takes a lot, right? Some people say he won. I didn't see the whole fight, but a lot of people said he won the fight. He put him down. He did a lot of face. And, listen, it's amazing how many people think he can. Shows that we can hang. Yeah, absolutely. I know, Jon is the focus. But do you think it's safe to say the Francis fight probably is just one you're just going to have to let go because of the...
Oh, yeah. Listen, I'm okay with letting go. I get it. As much as I would do love to fight him, wish him nothing but the best. He is what it is. We're 1-1. That's the way it'll be.
Yeah.
You got the last one, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So again, very, very good answer from Stipe Miocic. Just such a cool dude, man. But again, after that last fight against Francis and seeing how Francis has evolved... I think Stipe definitely would, obviously, he's a warrior, he would definitely want the rematch. I'm kind of glad, or the trilogy, I'm kind of glad that that's not really happening because Francis, all it takes is one mistake. And now that he has solved the takedown aspect, he has good takedown defense, he's became a much more well-rounded fighter. I just don't think that it would go very well I think we would see a similar result to the second fight with Stipe Miocic. But now we're going to hear his kind of thoughts on, is this his final fight? Where is Stipe's head at coming into this matchup here with Jon Jones?
Now, with Jon, listen, we all know the narrative going into this. There's been a lot of talk about, is this going to be the final fight for Jon? Is this going to be the final fight for Stipe? I talked to Jon Jones' coach, Brandon Gibson, a couple weeks ago, and I said, listen, I know you're not going to give any secrets away before the fight, but he said, I'm preparing that this is the last one. Now, does that mean it's going to be the last one? I guess we'll find out. How are you preparing for this one? Is there a world where this is the final time we see Stipe Miocic?
I think every fight I always remember my last one. I always thought every time after my first UFC fight, I said that all the time because, once I get beat up for 10 to 12 weeks, and come back and do it again, I love what I do, and it's fun. So we'll see. But right now, my task at hand is Jon. That's all I care about. So I'm thinking about.
When you think about accomplishments, not to say we want you to retire, but could you imagine going out in a better way than beating Jon Jones? When I do beat him, it's gonna be great. That seems.
So right there, that line, when I do beat him and I go out, it's gonna be great. So I'm not saying that that's exactly what he's going to do, and I know that Stipe's just kind of talking here, but I feel like a lot of us guys, we know the reality of this, right? We know the reality of this. This is Dana White and the OGs behind the scenes are look, we love Stipe Miocic, greatest heavyweight of all time. Let's put him in there with the greatest fighter of all time in Jon Jones. But this isn't exactly the fight that the fans want to see, right? We wanted to see Aspinall, but that aside, this is still it's like a weird fight because it's kind of interesting, but is Stipe even going to look the same? He's been sidelined for so long. But then you hear comments like this, and I feel like we all know that this is probably the last fight for Stipe Miocic. Win or lose, this is probably the last fight. It's almost like what they've mismanaged the heavyweight division a little bit. Obviously the interim belt for Aspinall. He has more title more title defenses than Jon Jones right now. So I feel like they've been keeping Aspinall waiting in the wings for the moment where Miocic retires. Maybe Jon retires in this fight as well. Who the hell knows? But just interesting to hear from the horse's mouth there. But let's move on to 7:30 here, where he's going to talk about being the underdog, right? Because a lot of things with Stipe throughout his career, a lot of coming into a lot of these matchups, he's always kind of been the underdog. So I love to hear Stipe, because he always embraces that underdog mindset coming into a big matchup here with Jon Jones.
Pressure off,
Nothing new. I mean, I've been, there's a lot of times. First franchise I was underdog. Verdum was underdog. I think GDS was underdog. I mean, it was a lot of fights I was underdog.
And you always seem to perform.
I'll be fine.
So there's Stipe. So just a chill dude, man. Like Stipe, he's a fireman, hanging out you could just, that is like his personality, man. He's just like arms crossed, like, yeah, whatever, man. Like, can we just hurry up and get through the interview? Like, he's not a rude dude. He's such a cool guy, but it's just like, it's very hard to get stuff out of him. But again, very respectful. But let's move on here to 808 Mafia, getting the Jon Jones fight / critics, dealing with the critics, because there's been a lot of talk, right? A lot of us, even me, we've been on here being like, look, love Stipe Miocic. This isn't the fight that probably should be happening, right? And I know Dana's like, this is the fight that absolutely should be happening. Greatest heavyweight, greatest fighter. It's like, but Tom Aspinall just defended an interim title, for God's sake. So, like, the whole thing is very bizarre. But let's hear his thoughts here on getting this Jon fight, because it's very clear Stipe's all about legacy here. And if he wins this fight, I think he retires. If he loses, I think he retires. This would be like the complete feather in the cap to be the first real person to be able to beat Jon Jones, basically. I mean, we all know about that Dominic Reyes fight. We know about, the illegal strikes, whatever. The first person to go in there on the judges' scorecards, get a win over Jon Jones, or possibly finish Jon Jones, which I'm just not sure that we see that. But again, still interesting.
It should be Aspinall. It should not be Stipe.
It was my choice. So far I wanted, UFC gave it to me. They didn't have to, they gave it to me.
Do you appreciate that, like, when they've talked about this, that, like, Dana has said many times, I know you and Dana have had ups and downs, I think it's maybe a little bit. But he said that this is what you deserve. Like, this is a deserved fight. Do you feel like this is a career accomplishment, getting this fight? Like, it's not necessarily that you've won 9 in a row or anything. Like, this is Jon Jones, the greatest of all time, Stipe Miocic, the greatest heavyweight of all time. Like, there's a reason why this fight is happening.
Yeah, I believe so. I think people want to see that. I think a lot more people want to see the fight than him when I played Aspinall.
Again, so this is more along the lines of like a fight for the OG fans, right? It's the old heads, so to speak. It's just, that's kind of the way it comes off. The younger generation of fans, the fans that are really active in watching the sport, absolutely want to see Jon versus Aspinall. Or if Stipe was the champion, they would want to see Stipe versus Aspinall, because we have an interim champion in the division. It just seems like they've held it up just to have this like OG type of matchup. But I'm trying not to bring it up. I'm trying to just be positive about, what we have here. It's just hard, man. It's hard. It's hard. But let's talk about him and his thoughts on Tom Aspinall, because if Stipe were to win this, right, which I'm probably going to pick Jon Jones to win this fight here, but if Stipe pulls this off, one, it would be a gigantic upset, but maybe they would do a rematch with Jon, so who the hell knows? And then that would just, now that I'm thinking of it, that would just drag it out even longer. But if that doesn't happen, him versus Aspinall would be, I don't know, because Stipe's, 42 years of age. But let's hear what he thinks of Tom Aspinall, because it's always interesting to hear a guy like him, who's the greatest heavyweight of all time, on the young and up-and-coming guy.
Man, it's hard, like big boy, and what people want, he knocks people out.
Dana said, I think it was last week, he said, whoever wins Jon Stipe, I'm confident they'll fight Tom Aspinall. Now, I know your focus is Jon Jones and only Jon Jones, but has that thought even crept into your mind?
No. All I'm caring about is November 16th. That's all I'm thinking about. That's all I'm worried about.
So again, now people are going to hear that, right? Maybe it'll happen at some point. People will post a little clip of this on X or on Instagram or something, and it'll be like, oh, Stipe Miocic, he's going to duck Tom Aspinall if he wins, and all this fight will never happen. This is literally what Stipe Miocic says after every fight. You heard him back to his first fight. He's like, I don't know if I'm going to be doing this after this fight. He's like the reigning defending champion. He's got massive fights on his hands, big money to be made. He's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going back out there. I don't know if I'm doing it again. It's that's just who Stipe is. So before everyone starts cutting up clips and passing it around like, oh, Stipe's, no. This is always Stipe's answer whenever it comes to this. However, given the circumstances, it definitely seems like no matter what, this is going to be his last fight. So again, I don't think we see Aspinall fight either Jon or Stipe, but I'm remaining hopeful here that maybe we'll get that. But let's move on to 10:06 here, let me read what my notes here. He believes Jon, is the hardest fight. Is he Jon's hardest fight, right? Stipe, of course, believes that he's going to be Jon's hardest fight, but let's get what his thoughts on this, because it's always interesting hearing from the guy who's coming. I mean, he's been away for 3 years, right? Stipe Miocic has been away for a while, coming back, taking on Jon Jones. What is Stipe's thoughts here?
Oh, yeah, sure, I guess. But I think every fight's your hardest fight because it's a new guy, it's a different style. Because, one fight you're fighting, I was fighting Francis, the next fight I was fighting DC. I mean, it's like totally different, 180. And so it just depends. I think I think every fight's your hardest fight. Definitely everyone has a puzzle you guys got to figure in. Everyone has tendencies, you got to figure them out.
We talk about like the noise of people, the criticism, somebody saying like, oh, this shouldn't happen. We notice the fighters. Now I looked this up before we talked. Almost every fighter that's talked about this fight said it's a 50-50 fight. People know you. People respect you and say, Tom Aspinall said it's a 50-50 fight. Maybe he leans a little bit one way, but it's a 50-50 fight. Do you feel like that is the people who understand the fight game, the people who know the fight game, realize this is not, it's just Jon's going to win. This is a legit hard fight to pick. This is not an easy fight to pick. Like the fighters seem to know.
Yeah. That is crazy. That is crazy. And one of the things that, I feel like a lot of us, fans in the MMA community, whatever, media, whatever you want to call it, we're, usually quite a bit better, I think, than, the fighters at making picks. Every time I watch, James Lynch, shout out to him, he does the MMA Pros pick, you go on there and, the fighters, it seems like they're wrong most of the time when it comes to the picks. Maybe I'm stretching there a little bit. Sometimes they're right and stuff, but it just seems like, look, Stipe's 42 years of age, right? We can't ignore that. He's been away for a while. What kind of guy do we see? Do we see the dude that was in there against Daniel Cormier in the second or third fights? Do we see that same dude? Or do we see a very labored and lethargic Stipe to where his footwork just isn't the same? He has no speed. What are we going to see? And to have people saying that this is a 50-50 fight, I think is crazy. I think that, if it stays on the feet only, that if this was just a kickboxing fight, sure, it's 50-50. But given what we've seen, Daniel Cormier, who is an unbelievable wrestler, and, Jon Jones, and the way that Jon and DC matched up coming into this fight with Stipe, I don't know that it's 50-50. I think it definitely leans toward Jon Jones, given the fact that Stipe's older and he's been sidelined for a while. So I thought that was crazy to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad, because I feel the same way. I don't think it's 50-50. I think it's more towards me. But, I think so. I mean, listen, I don't listen to anything else. I used to when I was younger, when I started, I was like, why would you say that? How dare you? I was a little sensitive. When I really stopped caring anymore. I don't care what anyone says. I really don't care.
And now here, so just, again, classy as always from Stipe, man. And, I guess good to tune out the fans. Who gives a shit what we say? Just got to stay dialed in. That's what the man's up to, man. But let's move ahead to 12:25 and hear the thoughts on Jon being tested in his career so far. Because, look, Jon has fought a lot of different guys, right? He's fought a lot of different styles of opponents. But the one thing that we've always kind of said about Jon Jones is Jon is the complete fighter, right? He's got the wrestling, he's got submissions, vicious ground and pound, kicks, elbows, knees. But it's kind of the boxing that's always been the discrepancy. And the only area that I can point out, okay, here's a weakness in Jon Jones is a guy that has good footwork, good timing, good speed, good boxing. We saw what Dominic Reyes was able to do. And I'm not saying Stipe is as fast as Dominic Reyes, but the guy's 42. But if he comes in with any bit of footwork and speed like what we have seen in the past, and he comes in with some of that, and Jon's not able to take him down, I could see him possibly giving Jon some issues. So, but let's hear what Stipe's thoughts are here.
No, I don't think he has, but I mean, he's one of the best in the world. So, but I'm different, and you'll find out. I'm going to touch that chin. Don't you?
And obviously, you also have the wrestling background, which is something that, of course, Jon comes from as well. Do you feel like there's no area where you can't match Jon Jones?
No, definitely. I think, just like I said, our best coach doing the work on everything. We work on every situation, and I think that, we'll be ready. I know we'll be ready. It's like, I have the best coach in the world. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them.
Are you ready?
So again, and I'm going to be curious to see what the game plan is coming in against Jon, because again, if it plays out on the feet and it only stays on the feet, like Daniel Cormier's got more pop in his hands than Jon, in my opinion, right? Daniel Cormier is like a shorter, stockier kind of guy, and he's like a lower center of gravity. That's a different kind of fight than Jon. But again, Jon's going to be throwing a lot of weird techniques at you, the oblique kicks, the switching of stances. Like, Jon's going to be giving a lot of different looks. So I'm very interested to see how Stipe approaches the puzzle that is Jon Jones. But only a couple more here. Let's move on to 14-15. And hear what Stipe has to say. Like, did he miss fighting, right? Because I feel like that's an important thing that I wanted to highlight in here. Like, the guy's been gone for so long. Like, when you are gone that long and you get up there in age, like, are you actually interested in even coming back, right? So just want to hear what Stipe has to say here ahead of this fight with Jon Jones.
It's been great in a way, good in a way, because, my son, and he's growing up, and I think my body rest, I'm training, so I can take a day off. I don't have to worry about I train. I'm like, all right, beat up. Let's just do something different today. Or it's been great. I'm older, 42, listen to my body more. It's great, and it's been great. Honestly, been a blessing.
Do you feel like, everyone's going to say, well, 42, but having the time off, actually allowing your body to rest, your mind to rest, in terms of health, conditioning, all those kind of questions, speed, all that thing, do you feel like you're maybe better than you've been before just because you had that break?
No, there's no question. I know I have been. I know I'm faster, stronger. I have more of my tools, sharper and learn more. And so, I'll be ready. There's no question. And I think having that time off definitely is. People might not think that. The critics are, I really care. I know where I'm at. I know I'm done.
Again, like, that's what Stipe basically has, like a bulletproof mindset. Like, I guess that's probably like the best way to put it. Like, to be 42 years of age, this is like, it like reminds me of like Brady, right? Tom Brady, and like for those of you that are NFL fans, like it feels like that. Like Brady like was playing he was like 45 or whatever. Like, once you get to that certain point, like, yeah, maybe you're not as fast as you were, maybe you're not as explosive or whatever, but like mentally you're a little bit sharper, right? You're a little bit more like, you kind of tune out the bullshit and just focus on the task at hand. And sometimes, I keep saying this, man. Everybody keeps calling this dude the old man, retired dude, and this and that. Have you guys ever poked the old man who's retired and made him pop up off the couch and be like, let me show you something, little man? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that is almost the vibe I'm getting from Stipe Miocic here. Like, he has this, like, I'm going to prove you wrong type of attitude. Like I said, I don't know if that's going to be enough to get this done. But, if he actually is, like, feeling as good as he says, like, of course he's going to say that. But if he does feel faster and stronger and, like, we see that out there, anything can happen, man. It is a fight, and it is heavyweight. Stipe Miocic, he's got real power. Like, we all know that. He's got real power. He's got some good leg kicks, got power in his hands, no question, and pretty good speed for the heavyweight division in terms of the boxing. So, but let's hear his final thoughts here. Last thing I got for you. How does this fight go, right? What does he see? And obviously, I feel like we all can kind of assume what his answer would be here. But again, always cool to just hear it from the source himself.
Oh, yeah, of course, a knockout. There's no question. The gusto.
When you think about it, obviously, again, Jon's fought everyone. Do you feel like Jon's ever fought anyone with your power, though?
Well, maybe not. I don't know. I never fought his guys. But we'll find out.
Are you a visualization person in terms of, like, I think I remember talking to you, because this is kind of a tradition, me coming up here and talking to you. I think I remember talking about going down to the Verdun fight, because obviously traveling down, your chance to become heavyweight champion, visualizing yourself becoming champion. Do you ever, like...
Oh, you gotta visualize what you want. Because if even in the fighting life, you have to have a vision of what you want to do. If you don't have it, you're not gonna do anything you like. You're gonna make it scream, suck. So you gotta visualize what you want, you'll get it.
Some words of motivation from Stipe Miocic here, man, to finish it up. I think I may have a little something left.
How many times have you visualized yourself knocking out Jon Jones and winning that title back?
Repeat.
So on repeat. So again, some motivation there to end from Stipe Miocic. But guys, I just wanted to, the rest of it, he's just kind of talking shop with Damon about Cleveland sports. So the Browns, they suck. But anyway, talking up some shop. But look, Stipe Miocic, man, there's no question. He's one of my favorite heavyweights of all time, if not my favorite. I think that he absolutely is the GOAT for the heavyweight division. Massive fight with Jon Jones. Again, not the fight that we as fans necessarily want to see. We would rather see Aspinall versus Jon Jones, or, that's definitely, he's the interim champ, for God's sakes, is Aspinall. But if there was a guy that the UFC was going to basically gift a title shot coming back and whatever, I'm fine with it going to Stipe Miocic. Again, not the Aspinall fight, but still, respect to Stipe Miocic, a guy that I have a ton of respect for. So I was excited to cover him on my channel a little bit here. So if you guys enjoyed this, give it a like, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell so you do not miss an upload. I appreciate it. See you next time.